Chapter 26. Removing the mask. This mask, I have a way to undo it. Gu Hai twisted his head and stopped looking at Meng Tai. What? Meng Tai's face changed abruptly. How is this possible? Meng Tai's eyes were uncertain for a while, but the eyes of the crowd of villains were bright. If before, the crowd of villains definitely did not believe, but after the great battle just now, the crowd had countless more confidence in Gu Hai, and at this moment, they could only believe. But how exactly do you unlock it? Gu Hai no longer paid attention to the crowd, but searched in the arena, constantly turning over a stone. My lord, what is it going to be? We'll help you. A crowd of villains called out. No need. Stay where you are. Don't destroy that, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. The principle of that mask is still told by himself. There is no way to break it. Gu Hai carefully turned over the piles of rubble. Steeply, Gu Hai's eyes lit up. A trace of joy flashed across his face, but he quickly became serious. Very carefully, he pushed aside the surrounding rubble, slowly revealing a bronze mask. Isn't this the mask that was previously worn on Winebell's face? Meng Tai said in surprise. Not only Meng Tai, the crowd of villains, as well as the gambler cultivators on the Four Directions peaks, all stared at Gu Hai with wide eyes, not knowing what Gu Hai was going to do. The mask was carefully taken by Gu Hai. Gao Xianzi, Chen Chonchen, Scar, and Shangwen Scar quickly stepped forward. A large amount of dirt and dust had fallen on the mask, but at this moment, there were several fingerprints in general. Huh, these few marks, Chen Chonchen said in surprise. Although it's blurred, it's still able to be seen. This is the handprints left by Li Wei. Gu Hai took a deep breath and said, left by Li Wei, the handprints that unlock the mask. Shangwen Trace's eyes lit up, but there are 11 fingerprints on it. Who was first and who was last? Chen Chonchen was surprised. Gu Hai pointed to one of them and said, these 3 are the first batch of true Qi input points. These 4 are the second batch of true Qi input points, and these 4 are the last batch of true Qi input points. Oh, the crowd froze slightly. My lord, is that some sort of grease up here? Shangwen Trace said in surprise. Which will touch and break the outermost layer of that skin. This kind of glue, a lot of it. Chen Chonchen frowned. Not bad. The glue is very common, but just do the effect. Gu Hai took a deep breath and said. Gu Hai nodded. Your Excellency is far-sighted, Shangwen Scar exclaimed at once. Scar, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Go to the Colosseum warehouse. There's a large number of bronze masks there. Bring them over. Put them on the Dafengang disciples and use them for experiments. Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Yes, Scar answered. The crowd of villains were amongst their fists rubbing their palms, and were exceptionally excited. On the side, Meng Tai, however, was staring at Gu Hai, a surge of surprise flashing through his eyes. His eyes slightly narrowed as if he was pondering something. Soon, Scar brought the bronze mask. Don't put it on me, that Dafengang disciple said in shock. Snap, the mask was brought on. No. That great abundance gang disciple trembled in terror. Moving around won't solve it. Knock him out, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Yes, boom, Scar struck out, and instantly, the great Feng-Ang disciple fainted. Buzz, Gu Hai immediately had a stream of true Qi rise around his body, true Qi protecting his body in case it failed, and blew up on himself. Everyone stared at Gu Hai, and the crowd of villains gulped as they felt their hearts beating faster. Gu Hai followed what he had learnt from Meng Tai and probed out 3 fingers to point at a fixed location. Buzz. Steeply, 3 strands of true Qi ran along the fingers into the mask. Ka. The mask let out a slight crunching sound. First inputs, right, Scar said excitedly. Everyone held their breath. Gu Gu Hai's 4 fingers stretched out, and the second batch of 4 strands of true qi slowly injected into the mask along the 4 directions. Click, 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 click. The mask once again caused slight crunching sound. Second input, right, Chen Chongchen also said excitedly. Not far away, Meng Tai's eyelids fluttered furiously. The surroundings were silent. Above the 4 directions of the mountain peaks, countless gamblers and cultivators were showing their curiosity. That group of villains, what were they doing? Gu Hai's eyes narrowed slightly. His 4 fingers shifted their positions. After a moment of silence, he took a deep breath, and once again, 4 strands of true qi were inputted into it. Buzz. True qi was inputted into it. The surroundings were silent. Only the sound of rainwater falling to the ground remained. Corching. A rather loud crunching sound. The bronze mask slid down. Roar. All the villains roared and cheered. That scene, making the originally quiet Colosseum become lively in an instant. Some villains were even excitedly jumping around wildly, venting out the exuberance in their hearts. Are those villains crazy? What are they staggering for? The 4 parties of cultivators revealed a look of puzzlement. Meng Tai stood on the sidelines and turned complicated within his gaze towards Gu Hai. Good luck. We made it. In order. I'll untie you all. Gu Hai laughed. Yes, my lord. All the villains roared loudly. Gu Hai smiled slightly. The first one was Gao Xionzi. Gu Hai kept unraveling as he did. Click, 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 click. Gao Xionzi's mask slipped off. Gao Xionzi's face was ecstatic. Many thanks, my lord. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Chen Chongchen excitedly squeezed Gao Xionzi away. Click, 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 click. Chen Chongchen's mask slipped off. Yes, Chen Chongchen said excitedly. Chen Chongchen quickly left, and Gu Hai continued to unmask Scar. After Scar, it was Shangwen Scar. After the 4 major ministers, it was a group of Bai Changs, who excitedly stood in front of Gu Hai, each of them looking at Gu Hai gratefully as they waited for Gu Hai to keep unwrapping the mask. Some of the villains actually cried out in pain after unmasking. All this time, there was a feeling of unreality. It was as if they were dreaming. Some of them had despaired in the past, never thinking that one day they would be able to regain their cultivation and be able to take off their masks. Now, everything had come, all given by His Excellency. All the villains looked at Gu Hai with more than just fear, respect, and admiration. There was also deep gratitude. The villains lined up to remove Gu Hai's mask. Not far away, Meng Tai held the wind chimes to one side to rest and quietly watched the scene. Gu Hai, Tuan is a good tactic. This mask removal, even if there is a method, he's unwilling to let people help, unwilling to fake it. This is buying people's hearts. Meng Tai stared at Gu Hai and narrowed his eyes. Gu Hai was indeed buying people's hearts, helping them pick it off with his own hands and revealing the method for them to pick it off by themselves were simply 2 different things. Looking at the grateful gazes of each villain towards him, Gu Hai understood that the purpose had been achieved. Dafeng Gang, inner area of the gang. 500 villains were escorting a group of Great Abundance gang disciples. At this moment, listening to the distant roaring sound, the hearts of all the villains were anxious. Do you think we can remove the mask? I don't know. Only Li Wei will take it off. That Li Wei is not a fool. Li Wei is at the Yuanying realm. Can my lord force Li Wei? It should be possible. Your Excellency is so powerful. We are no match for your Excellency. But Li Wei is at the Yuanying realm. Yuanying realm. The villains were annoyed. Look, someone is coming. Suddenly a villain's face changed. But he saw Chen Chongchen from a distance originally. Wow. The crowd of evildoers immediately picked up their weapons and pointed them at Chen Chongchen, their faces showing wariness. What's going on? Don't recognize me. Chen Chongchen let out a loud shout. With a loud shout, the crowd of evildoers instantly heard it. Minister. It's the minister's voice. It's really the minister. The minister's mask is gone. The mask can be removed. The crowd of villains immediately exclaimed with wide eyes, "What are you looking at? Escort the disciples of the Dafeng and follow me. The adults are removing our masks, quick," Chen Chonshan shouted. Yes, the crowd of villains shouted excitedly. Colosseum, more than 1,000 disciples of the Dafeng were currently in the middle of being tightly detained. The crowd of villains stared fiercely. As long as anyone dared to move, they would immediately give them a lesson in general. On the other side, the villains moved at sealing stone platform, in the process of sealing the cultivation of a group of great abundance gang disciples. You guys also taste the feeling of sealing. Go go go. The crowd of villains were busy. Over there, Gu Hai unmasked one by one. When the last villainous mask was undone, a huge mirror had been moved in front of Gu Hai. Facing the mirror, Gu Hai's right hand was slowly placed on top of his own mask. It was Meng Tai who also stared at Gu Hai in death. Ka 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 ka. Click click click. Gu Hai's mask slowly slipped off. Gu Hai's appearance of a mature man was exposed in an instant. What? That? Steeply, a voice of surprise came from above a distant mountain peak. Wow! Above the mountain peaks in the 4 directions, one cultivator quickly took out a portrait from his arms, looked at the portrait in his hands, and then looked at the evil king in the distance. Gu Hai, he's Gu Hai, steeply a gambler cultivator exclaimed. Wow! Above the mountain peaks in the 4 directions, the voices of countless cultivators suddenly exploded in an uproar. Was it really the ancient sea? The Gu Hai that he had searched for so long. He was the evil king. Found it, found ancient sea. Ancient sea turned out to be here. Ha 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 ha. Countless gambling cultivators looked towards Gu Hai. Their eyes gradually reddened. Wasn't it for Gu Hai that they came to the 9-5 Islands this time? The ancient sea of the innate realm. I found it. 100 longevity peach. He has the 100 longevity peach. Nearly 10,000 cultivators immediately stirred.